Todd McFarlane, founder of McFarlane Toys, and today we're going to talk about the DC Multiverse figures and what's our process of going through it. Look, at the very beginning, there's only one thing that I ever want out of any of the toys. It's just got to be cool looking. So we start from there and we work everything down from that one key word, because if it doesn't look good, then I don't know that you really want to go out there and hunt for it and buy it and put it into your collection. The second thing, once we get past the cool factor, is what characters are we going to do and what are they going to look like? Here's why I say that. Here's some of the examples of some of the figures we got that are either out or coming out here pretty soon. We want them to have a different feel. We don't want every single one of them to feel like they're the same. The silhouette's the same and everything else. So we want to have tall, skinny ones, let's say here, like Dawnbreaker, and then we've got skinny guy here, so we've got obviously the Batman Who Laughs that looks good, but then you want the big guys, right? So we go to the other extreme. We want the big ones like the Devastator. Here's Asbat. He's going to be thick. You can see how much space that the Devastator takes in his package. And so what we're trying to do is make it so that there's literally a silhouette of each one of them. Some tall, some small, some wide, some big. Obviously the females are going to be a little bit skinnier. And then you have them, when you got them all set up here, that it feels like 20 different people, and not just one mold that somebody put in and we swapped heads or something like that. So some of it too, you're looking for themes. Let's say if we look over here, this is sort of the White Knight one. It's sort of fun to actually have the Joker work, which we do lots and lots of Jokers. You see him in the comic book. But from the neck down, this isn't his classic look. So it's a strange and odd, interesting look that we get to see of the Joker relative to what you're used to seeing, like him in the video game, right here. This Joker and this Batman is based on the video game. So you're going to start to see a couple different looks of Batman. You're going to get some of the TV, the movie looks. You're going to get the video look. You're going to get the comic book looks. And then within the comic books, there is no end to what we can do. So you can have everything from cool broad shoulder Asbat here. You can have Murder Machine right here. Just looks good. Looks like an NFL player. He's cool. And then obviously you can get the stylized look of Batman. So if you have Batman as a collection, you can get this one and this one and this one and don't feel like you've ever repeated yourself. Now, what's the process, how we go to it? Well, first off, we just start sculpting and make sure it looks good. And once we make sure that it looks good, we then output it. So here's Grim Knight. And you're going to see here, and one of the reasons that we want to output it is we want to see whether all the detail is sharp enough and whether all the pieces are going to fit properly. You can see there's very little articulation on it when we output it, and eventually we're going to have to end up cutting it. And then we also then want to put them next to other outputs to make sure we're getting what I was saying, which is a variety in shapes and sizes. Some big, some tall. Here, there's another one here, right? We got Red Death standing next to him. But again, you can see that those guys are slightly different. And then we've got one last thing. We tried to use as much as possible the color. I mean, Batman's colors for the most part are going to be pretty subdued and pretty dark because he's a creature of the night. But once you start getting into the greens and the yellows and the reds, and you got Superman's pretty bright. Obviously, the Joker's flamboyant. There are other characters. Harley Quinn, she's pretty colorful. You get into some of the sort of animated looks that we do. These have a tendency to become a little bit bright. And then even if they are, you got Azrael. You know, his red stands out differently than, let's say, Murder Machine. Then one of the other things we get is from the factory, we get our first working prototype. This basically shows us whether the detail is good and whether the pieces are all moving. So they look like this. So here's a couple of them, right? And they just take whatever plastics in front of them. I've had some that are pretty psychedelic over the years. So here's a Batman Who Laughs. You can see they use like black and light blue and white and some khaki green on here. This essentially is this figure, unpainted, right? So it doesn't look that impressive. But what it is for us is to make sure that the joints are working, that we can spin it around, that it's going to do all the toy things that you guys are looking for, and that the joints are sitting in the right spot so that we sit there. Here's a bigger example here. Obviously our, what I call Batman in armor here. Again, the pieces are going to move here, that all this feels good, and that all the pieces are going to go, and we get the dates from the factory when they're coming. And when all that's done, then we send off our paint samples, and then they paint it, and they send us the first paint mock-ups of it, and it all looks good. And then when we sign off on all of it, we go into production, we put them in the package, obviously, you guys get to go and buy it, and then the ultimate is, if you guys buy a bunch of them, no one figure really is sort of the coolest. To me, what is always great about collecting is that the whole is always better than the parts, and then you get the DC universe. Whether it's animation, whether it's TV, whether it's movie, whether it's the metals, it doesn't matter. It's just all cool DC's multiverse product that ends up looking good. And so you can end up with a display just like I have here, if you basically go out and get as many as we have today. That's the process, and we've got dozens more coming. One last thing. We also get these orange ones that are our very first ones to make sure that our detail held up. And they're our orange ones before we actually start going into a true prototype. And here's a first look